Welcome to the Average American Podcast. Number 2, welcome. I want to, again, we're going to be telling some history. I am born and raised in Portland, Oregon for 35 years. Been out in Nebraska now for 7. But I owned a gym called The Shack in Canby, Oregon. This gym did very well. I was a certified personal trainer and nutritionist. Due to what I did in high school, being the strongest kid in the history of that school, maybe not anymore, I trained some kids to beat my records. And that's what we're supposed to do as mentors, is train the future to beat us. That's what us older generations need to let go of our, you gotta let go. You had your time. Now it's time you elevated yourself so you could elevate the future. And I always made that a purpose of mine. I learned that from my wrestling coaches, some great mentors, wrestling coaches at All Phase Wrestling. And so we have to train the future to be better than us. That's just the way it goes. You gotta let go of it. So I might not be the strongest kid in the history of Canby anymore. But I'm fine with that. And I know I helped a kid beat my bench record. And one of the biggest things that happened to me when I ran my gym was I helped young men go from soft, didn't know it was possible to do a pull-up, didn't know it was possible to do a dip. They could barely do a push-up, some kids. And over a 6-month, 7-month period, they transformed. And all of a sudden they're doing, 10 pull-ups. They're doing 20 dips. They're doing weighted dips. They're learning to box. They're learning confidence. And what that does is bring attention. Because as much as we don't want to believe it, if you look at what you look like when your wife first met you or your girlfriend, and you look at yourself now, whether you may be 15 years married down the road with 2 kids, take a look at your picture when she met you and take a look at your picture now. Especially if we want to be real here, the divorce rate is in the 65%. And there's a lot of factors that come with that. But it is a problem, obviously, a glaring problem. And one of the biggest things, and so all these things I've done over the years and my own experiences, because obviously I'm missing a ring and I was married and have a kid, a beautiful young girl. What a treasure. It's amazing something so amazing can come from a hardship. And we have to remember that even when we go through that hardship, if we do get divorced, you have to live for those kids. Please. I know I'm getting off track, but you got to live for those kids. The future is your future. Depends on what age group I'm talking to, but your future, men, is your future. Your children are the people that are going to watch after you. Give them all you can. Because the better they are, the better they're going to watch over you. So what happened is I had some great successes. There was but these kids that had the great success, they had good parents that gave them values. And then when I gave them physical abilities, they just became better people. And those men and young ladies went on to be good people, raising families now. I'm 41, so I train these young kids in my 20s back in Canby, and they're successful. All I did was give them something extra. Their parents gave them values to help carry it, which was my real goal, but I was 20. I was in my 20s. I was a kid. I was 2 years from escaping my father's grasp that he had over me. So what happened to some of the young men is they got six packs and they became immersed in the fun culture. All of a sudden, the party girls noticed them. All of a sudden, they threw themselves at these young men, and these young men had nothing to fall back on. They didn't have an ethos. They didn't have a faith. They didn't have a way of life. And some of these young men suffered greatly. I still to this day think about it. One thing that sustained me was, as unbelievable as my father was, and God rest his soul, he's been dead for 3 years now, he did give me some ways of life, as in never hit a girl, show respect. He beat that into my brain. Awesome. He taught me how to work hard, psycho hard, unbelievably hard. That has given me a what I would call a superpower. I have an unrelenting gas tank. I've never stopped working out. I've never stopped taking care of myself, which is always, if life happens and I lose everything, which I have started over multiple times, I was strong enough to go dig ditches or do whatever I had to do to start over again. Super important to be able to start over again, because that's life. So the biggest thing I failed with some of these young men is I didn't give them purpose. I didn't know how to. I didn't know what I was missing as a trainer, as a coach. Because as a personal trainer, sometimes you spend 3 days a week or more. And some of these young men, I spent came and trained every single day, because it's what I did for a job. The Shack was my gym. It's what I did every day from 6 a.m. to midnight. I had an MMA team that became quite successful within 3 years. And then also had a what I call the women's class, successful women in Canby. Shout out to all of them. Amazing, given a chance to this 20-year-old kid that had been running around from 18 to 22, giving this kid a chance. And they all, I guarantee you, talk to these 15 women and they have no regrets that they came and worked out with the Shack. And then the MMA team did all that for free. Trained all the high school kids for free. But I didn't know how to give these kids purpose and an ethos, and how important it was. You know, I'm a superhero nerd. And, you know, come to find out that a lot of our superhero stories come from the Bible, the book. David, Goliath, Job versus the devil, good versus evil, Superman versus Lex Luthor, Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin. These are stories of good versus evil. These superhero stories go back as far as, they go back a long time in American history, right? Not the biblical history. But if we go back into the biblical history, we can relate these superhero stories to the Bible. Good versus evil. And it saddens me, because when I go to the stores nowadays, Walmart, wherever else, Target, I couldn't find one superhero shirt. What happened? I'm seeing shirts that kids shouldn't be wearing. So that's where I hope you walk with me in this journey on this podcast, young men, because you're who is watching. And walk in the journey that I took, and I'm going to share the real journey throughout this podcast. The Tony Robbins, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, all the things that came before my rebirth into Jesus Christ and into my faith. And again, I'm going to tell everybody out there, I don't care if you don't go to church. I don't care if you don't want to believe that you've been scorned by a church, because many people have been scorned. And if you're out there and you're a radical Christian, and radical Christians are people that are judging people for not going to church, what do you know about them? Maybe that person has helped hundreds of people become better. Maybe they have trained a bunch of people that would have been living on the streets and helped them become a fighter, help them become somebody, because the martial arts has its own belief system. What if they've done more good than you could ever dream of? And I'm going to go here. Matthew, in red, words of God. Judge not, that ye not judged. For with judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye met, it shall be measured to you again. What does that mean? You know, what it means to me is that if I judge you, I'm going to get judged. It's not our job to judge. But I also will tell a radical Christian, if you don't want to associate with me, that's your right. And I'm not going to judge you either. But if you try to force yourself upon me and your fake Bible instead of the real one, it's my right, my inalienable right that God gave me to have you leave me alone as well. And we can just go our separate ways. That's fine. And when beholdeth thou the mote that in the brother of eye, but considereth not the beam that is in thine own eye, or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote of thine eye, and behold, a beam is thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye. Cast out your judgment. I am here to try to give guidance to the youth that have never even walked into the church, because my generation and above me have failed them to give them guidance, because we judged them, because we were too busy doing our own thing. We were too busy trying to not train them to beat our records, not train them to be better than us. We're too busy drinking, smoking. We're too busy just not caring. And when good people do nothing, evil prevails. And why do you think the influence of bad, the evil, the devil, whatever you want to call it, has influenced the youth? And the internet is a supercharged driver for psychotics to grab hold of these youth. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote of thy own brother's eyes. Give not what which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your hands pearl before swine, lest thee trample them under thy feet, and turn against the rend you.